Hey, Brendo, did you hear the news?
What's the news?
Commander Keen is back.
Commander Keen! This is all I've wanted for decades! A new Commander Keen game! Stop the presses! This is the greatest news in history!
I wouldn't get so excited if I were you.
What?
Yeah, it's a free-to-play mobile game, not a platformer. Sorry.
Start the presses again. There's no need to stop the presses. I didn't want this.
The Gaming Lovers Podcast with Brendo and Jem. G'day and welcome to episode 61 of the Gaming Lovers Podcast. Oh, it feels good to say that again.
You're here!
I'm here!
You're actually here in the flesh!
Jinx.
It's almost like we planned that.
We really didn't. We've been around each other for so long. Even after being away for like a month, we can still say things in sync. Oh, g'day, I'm Jem.
I'm Brendo. I'm also thankful my wife is back from many weeks travelling overseas. I've been trying my best to hold down the Gaming Lovers fort.
I think you did a good job.
Why, thank you.
You're welcome.
It's very kind of you to say to your fellow co-host, podcaster, and / husband.
I have so much news, so many stories from the States, from my video game hunt to Galaxy's Edge, which we're going to talk about soon. Plus, we have so much to unpack from E3 2019. Oh my goodness, this episode is like overflowing with information.
I love the fact that you had a 16-hour flight to get back, and then you probably had to sit on the couch for about 16 hours to digest all of the gaming news that was revealed at E3 2019.
I was in LA as E3 was happening. I was just on the wrong side of town. I wasn't at the conferences as all the news was dropping. I was in Anaheim. So we're going to talk about all the new game announcements, console announcements, all the highs and lows of E3 as we love to do here on the Gaming Lovers Podcast. This is going to be a especially long episode, so buckle up. It's going to be a long, bumpy ride.
Supersize me. We're going to be strapped in for a while here.
You don't even need it to be supersized. I swear, just ordering a small anything in America is like a large in Australia. It makes it feel a little more worthwhile as far as value for dollar, but still.
The 256-ounce child-sized drink.
like in Parks and Rec.
The same volume as an actual child.
As a toddler, yeah. I didn't see anything that big, but I do have some fun stories about beverages, especially pertaining to Galaxy's Edge. So, how do you want me to unpack this, Brendo? We've got gaming goals. I've got my news from America. What order would you like to hear these stories in?
Well, let's mix it up a bit this week. Instead of going into our gaming goals, which is how we almost always start off, we need to find out what you've been up to before we talk video games.
Ooh.
So, what do you have to say for yourself?
I think the last time we properly spoke, I was in Tampa, Florida. Goodness, that was a while ago. I sent a short transmission right before I went into Galaxy's Edge to kind of gloat a little bit.
Yes.
But in between all of that, I went to Mobile, Alabama, which was nice and quiet compared to a lot of other places we visited. We went to New Orleans. I had some beignets, which were delicious.
Don't even know what that is.
They are like a rectangle donut covered, but there's no hole, right?
What anomaly is this?
It looks like a small pillow, like your pillow that you sleep, that shape. Shrunk and covered in icing sugar.
I understand the concept of a rectangle.
You weren't reacting, so I'm I feel like I need to explain what a rectangle is.
You know that thing you put your head on when you sleep? That's a rectangle shape.
Covered in sugar dust. It was delicious. And we ended up finding more of them in downtown Disney, which was a nice surprise. Then from New Orleans, we drove to Houston, Texas, and went to NASA there. And from there to San Antonio. I flippin' love San Antonio, you guys. They had a Pokemon store in one of the malls there, which was a nice little surprise for me.
An official Pokemon store?
No. It's not like a Pokemon Center in Japan. It was like a third party, slightly knockoff.
So don't-
Some of it looking a little chump, but it was more an anime store because there was lots of K-pop and J-pop merch as well.
You've
So
just sent Nintendo's lawyers on the fast. They're on their exclusive jet
off
to
to
San Antonio.
off to the Riverwalk shopping.
No, don't specify where it is. You're
It
gonna
was-
put people out of business.
It was just a pleasant surprise to run into that. The Riverwalk is just beautiful, by the way. If you ever had the chance to go to San Antonio, I thoroughly enjoyed walking around there. It was really beautiful. Then we went to Roswell. Can you believe it?
I'm glad you returned
Yes.
intact.
A very interesting, small, sleepy town. My sister loved it. I was kind of there. But it was kind of funny to see everything from Dunkin' Donuts to every, fast food place and accommodation place with alien signs smacked all over them. So that was
nothing less.
that was kind of amusing. Santa Fe, fascinatingly beautiful old town, but then made our way to, there's a Four Corners monument in the States where you can literally stand in 4 places at once.
Mhm.
Utah, Colorado, New Mexico, and Arizona. That was kind of a fun little, woohoo, I've been in 4 places at once moment.
Well, sometimes my head feels like it's in 4 places at once, and that's about as close as I've got to that experience.
Got to ride horses in Utah through Monument Valley, an area you might be familiar with if you've seen Forrest Gump, where he finishes his famous run and just decides to turn back and go home. That was shot there. And riding horses through that area really made me feel like kind of like Red Dead Redemption.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't help but think like Sunset Riders everywhere we were going. It was very hot. And I saw a rattlesnake. No.
Well, this is it. You're getting the full details now, everybody.
Not what you want to see when you're in the middle of the desert. But thankfully, it stayed away and my horse didn't get spooked. So I was grateful for that. But throughout all of this journey, right, I was hitting up every single GameStop shop I could find, searching for Vita games. And many of them didn't even have any in stock. It was really heartbreaking.
That's quite sad because we
Yeah.
were there in 2017.
Mhm.
Even as recently as then, they had quite a few Vita games
They
in
did.
just about every shop we went to.
Absolutely, they did. And a lot of the times I would ask, and they would bring like 3 or so games from behind the counter that they had hidden
Oh.
away.
Nobody looks at these.
It's like you have to ask if you want to see them.
It makes it feel like a shifty, like illicit weapons deal happening.
It did a little. It was just very bizarre. And
so
then
you were gunning them
Vita game.
Vita games around. You're not a cop, are you?
But the sad thing is, like, if you don't see the game you're after, then you kind of feel mean making them drag them out only to have them put them all back again.
Drag out 3 games.
You know what I mean, though. But finally, in Las Vegas, found a GameStop that had this game in stock, Edo Blossoms, the sequel to this samurai visual novel,
Mhm.
which I loved. It's been one of my favorite visual novels maybe since Steins Gate, because there's so much that changes between who you choose to, like, what path you go down. So, and it ended on a cliffhanger, which is so rare for visual novels. So I'm really, 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 really looking forward to playing it. I haven't started it yet because I have so many other games on my backlog, but I'm kind of like got that in my peripheral going, ooh, I want to play it.
Wait a second. You're saying you wasted all of your luck in Vegas finding a rare video game
Yes?
and not on the roulette wheels?
Oh, the house always wins. I don't bother with that. It was a really fun trip, but the ultimate goal was leading up to that tail end there, getting back to California, back to Disneyland, and back to Galaxy's Edge.
Galaxy's Edge. Sounds like it's a dangerous place to stand, right on the edge of a galaxy. You might fall off.
Well, I stood on the edge of a canyon and scared my sister half to death. So, no, Galaxy's Edge, oh my word. The new Star Wars Land section of Disneyland Park and soon to be opening at Disney World in Orlando, Florida, is basically this immersive world, I think kind of created to combat the Harry Potter worlds that are universal, to try to have something that is as deeply immersive. And it is this fictional spaceport of Batuu, with the Black Spire outpost, where it's a place where a lot of smugglers and those who want to kind of disappear off the radar will go to refuel, to sell their goods, do shady deals at the cantina.
Yeah. Black Spire does not sound like a honest-to-goodness business.
A nice, happy town with good law-abiding citizens. No, but the First Order has got a bit of a foothold in there now.
Oh dear.
And so there are stormtroopers marching through the place. They will literally hold you up and interrogate you if you're looking suspicious. If you dare ask any of the cast members, like people that work there at Disney are always referred to as cast members. And if you speak to anyone in that area and try to ask them outright for where you get to build lightsabers, they'll be like, shh, shush. You didn't hear this from me. But it's over by Zoe's workshop. And it's just so fun. Every single person working there has a backstory and makes that world feel rich and alive. It's not quite as obvious that it's a theme park compared to the rest of the park, if that makes sense. Because everyone there looks like they've stepped out of a Star Wars movie, which is really, really cool.
Very cool.
A few things are a little sad. One was waiting just to get in, because they give you 4-hour blocks with these reservations that they have at the moment, which are ending soon, thank goodness.
Yeah, it only has just opened, Galaxy's Edge, which is why there's so much demand.
Yes.
And you have to funnel humans in like sheep.
Oh my word, yes. And waiting to just be let in for that first bit was excruciatingly hot. But if you're not at the front of that pack, you will not have a chance of getting in line to either get into the cantina or into Zoe's workshop where you get to build lightsabers, because those require reservations to get to experience in your 4-hour slot. And if you miss that, too bad. Mm-hmm. And I got in the line for the lightsaber workshop and I got to the front and, sorry miss, it's all full. And I'm like, I'm not going to cry in Disneyland. I'm not going to cry in Disneyland. So I didn't get to build a lightsaber. I was a little miffed that the guy in front of me had done it twice already and was bragging about it. But, c'est la vie. These things happen.
Well, if it's Black Spire, you should have just shot him in a back alley somewhere with your blaster pistol.
But alas, I could not build one because, all the lines.
Drat, that's the problem.
Yes. There were a lot of other things to really enjoy, though. There's so much. Even if you're not a Star Wars fan, there is so much to enjoy. The ride, Smuggler's Run, going on the Millennium Falcon is incredible. And a lot of fun, I think, for those who are gamers. You will be really good at this. Those who are not gamers kind of struggle a little bit more.
Yeah, you're so used to the attractions, the rides, the roller coasters. They're all just like on a track. They always just do the same thing.
Yeah, you sit there and you experience it. Mm-hmm. You don't impact it generally. But this is different. It's interactive. So it's much like those simulator rides where you're being moved around, but you're influencing that. You've got 2 pilots who are steering the ship sideways or up and down. You have 2 gunners who control the guns, and then you have 2 engineers who are in charge of fixing the poor Millennium Falcon when you take
As
damage.
It falls apart.
Pretty much.
In space.
So depending on how you do on the ride, your ride can end really abruptly or you can make it to the end. Oh. So that's what fascinates me, is that this is different for every group depending on how skilled and how quick everyone's reflexes are, if they're paying attention or if they're just too absorbed watching the screen. There was this little boy that joined us in one session who was a gunner who wasn't pushing his button. He was just staring at the screen the whole time, so engrossed in it. So,
did you yell at him?
My sister did.
Did you verbally abuse him?
No, my sister did.
Oh.
Told him off and told him to start shooting. But yeah, it was just really fun to hear Jim Cummings' voice throughout it all. A character that if you've watched Star Wars Rebels and the Clone Wars, you will know this character Hondo Onaka, who is like a pirate smuggler. And he is like the main guy who's giving you a job. He wants you to go fly the Millennium Falcon and collect coaxium, which is fuel that helps you
Coke
jump.
Zero. What? What's he collecting?
Coaxium. It's a hypermatter that like allows the ships to go to light speed. So it's very valuable.
Coke Zero.
No,
I'm really thirsty for some reason.
like to coax something out. Coaxium.
Yeah, Coke Zero.
So anyway, those who love Star Wars naturally going to love this place. So much detail, so many Easter eggs. There are even bins around the place that have the number of the trash compactor that's in the original movie A New Hope, the one that they're stuck in. I love that there is that much detail in like the little things. So yeah, we had a great time, and the blue milk far superior to the green milk in my personal opinion.
Oh, surely that's common knowledge.
Some people, it just depends, because the green is supposed to be, weirdly, I think, a bit of kale in there.
Well, we all saw where the green milk comes from in one of the movies, and I think I'd prefer anything to that.
You don't know where the blue one comes from,
Oh,
so
it
you
can't
can't
be
say.
worse.
It could totally be worse.
Well, this could be the Slurm factory all over again.
Yeah. In Futurama, that episode's so disgusting. But then that happens a lot in that show.
Oh, well.
Anyways, I highly recommend, if you do get the chance to go, there is a place that does like these Ronto wraps that also has different drinks. The purple juice, I can't remember the name specifically, but it's a purple juice, is amazingly good. Also, they have exclusive Coke bottles and Sprite bottles that are written in like the galactic text.
In the shape of thermal detonators.
Yes. So they're a fun little souvenir that you can bring back with you that hopefully won't freak out airport security staff when they scan your luggage.
No, it's only a pretend explosive. That's fine.
Amazing, amazing time. I'm so sorry that you missed out on that.
Yes, well, I was all excited that you were back, but now I'm just angry at you again. So fine. Let's just get on with it. What's next? Gaming goals?
How about we get into some gaming goals?
Gaming goals.
Gaming goals. Yeah.
Been a while since you sung an intro to gaming goals. I thought I'd just let you take that one. Last time we heard from you on your gaming goals updates, you were not faring too well in the United States of America.
No.
Very busy days. A bit of
Yes.
travel fatigue.
Mm-hmm.
Long drives.
Yes.
Did not leave much time for gaming.
That is correct.
So, had you actually done any since we talked last?
I played a little more on my Vita. That said, though, the few times that I found to play it, I found myself in slightly public settings, and there's something to be said about playing those visual novels at home versus out in public, where people can like glance over and see a screenshot, and like out of context it might look really weird. So
And which game was this?
it's not even that
Smut
bad.
Boys 3000?
Oh my goodness. No. Code Realize Future Blessings.
Mm-hmm.
So the honeymoon stories, I guess.
Oh. Well, do you need another shovel to keep digging this hole, or are you going to...
It is a clean game, but there are still things that can be taken out of context. And it was just one of those things I'm like, okay, I can't really, I'm in a laundromat and they're kids. Let's just not, just in case. So I will jump back into that now that I'm home. That said, having been back in the land down under, I have been playing some stuff now that I'm home and jet lagged and waking up at 4 a.m.
Yes, I remember that. And those who listen to this podcast, when I returned, knew that that's what I complained about to no end as well. So I hope you've been using your 4 a.m. wake-ups productively.
Well, with this week of E3, there is a lot of free passes, free trials to play things. So I decided to try Fallout 76. He says.
What?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I did too, so I can't. Can't mock too much outrage.
I think I've lasted longer than you, though. I've only been booted out once of the server.
Yeah, that's a factor.
I think that was our internet's fault, though, not the server's for once.
Fallout 76 did launch with a abysmal first impression and was not very stable mechanically, was not featuring things that Fallout fans wanted it to feature. Since it's launched in November last year, they have improved it considerably. Plenty of updates, plenty of stability updates and content updates. How have you found it, being a long-term first-person Fallout fan?
Better than I thought, but I think there's been a lot of fixes since it launched, so it's hard for me to say if it's consistent with what it was at the beginning. They're not going to be adding all the NPCs until fall in America, so spring for us.
That's E3 spoilers. Oh.
Warren's being mentioned now.
Well, it's one of the things that's vastly different between a Fallout 3 or 4 and Fallout 76. Not just 72 numbers, but that was a maths joke, which fell very flat.
Yeah. You maths and me when I'm this jet lagged just not going to fly.
Yeah, you still nodded with a blank expression.
I'm just trying to be polite.
Oh, okay.
Sort of snare.
The main difference being there are no NPCs to interact with in Fallout 76. And that's where most of my enjoyment comes from, getting to know people in the game.
But there are enemies.
Oh, don't start this. That's a conversation I had with someone at work when they were trying to argue that there was NPCs because there was a feral ghoul.
Yeah, but you can't have a conversation with it.
That's not an NPC. That's an enemy.
Exactly. There is a difference. I mean, technically they are non-playable characters, but...
So is a rock.
Oh, good grief.
Anyway.
I'm very much looking forward to that patch. I think it will make a world of difference. It has been interesting to be in a game where you can have player versus player and no one has attacked me. I guess they can see my level. So they're probably like...
not worth the effort.
Yeah, they're like, some Deathclaw will get her, or Feral Ghoul will get her, or, exposure will get her. I say that in jest, but in all seriousness, it is very easy to die of exposure in this game because it is like playing Fallout, like the single player campaigns on one of the harder difficulties where you have to maintain your food and drink and your health and your rads.
And of course,
it's a balancing act.
Everything you ingest is irradiated.
Yeah, or nearly everything. So for me, I've never played that mode before. I like to enjoy the story and the exploration side, not so much the, oh my gosh, I need to feed my digital person again. I fed them, 2 minutes ago. This is probably how you feel about me.
Oh, yes. I'll go out in the backyard and kill a possum and cook it up just to keep you satisfied.
Lovely. Okay. So it's different. I'm still enjoying it. I've only played for a couple of hours, so I feel like I've only really scratched the surface. But I kind of want more interactions with people and stuff, because having storyline being fed to you through the holotapes feels a little hollow.
Different spelling of hollow.
Yes. But it does. It feels a little, I don't know. For
empty,
me,
lifeless.
It does feel empty. So I'm looking forward to that update. I think that's going to make a big impact on that. I'm not touching the Battle Royale mode, even though I can technically try it this week. I'm like, it's not my cup of tea.
Not my cup of irradiated, diseased tea.
So, yeah, I feel like it's good. It's not great, but it can be great, and it looks like it's getting at a better path in a better direction. So,
well,
yay.
This week was a free trial. We'll talk about that during the Bethesda section of this podcast, which will be like part 2 of 9, it seems. Is free the right price? Would you pay 10 Aussie dollars to play Fallout 76?
If it had NPCs,
which it will.
It will. In its current state, no. Because it's kind of... I think it's amusing for a few hours, but it's not going to suck me in, Fallout 4 did, where, that story really dragged me in, and I'm like, I need to know what happened to my son. So to have that and to have all the stories and characters that just make those worlds rich, if I don't have a reason to come back to it, then I kind of will lose steam in it pretty quickly and get distracted by another game. So the reason personally for me, and we've reiterated this like so many times on this podcast, but the reason we come back to a lot of games is because of the great stories. So yeah, not in its current form, but down the road, possibly.
Okay. Well, I also tried it out because it was free, and what do we love more than free?
Getting paid to do it?
That would be better than free, that's for sure. Now, I decided to try this out. Online games I don't like that much, because I absolutely hate when your gameplay gets interrupted because it's lost connection with the server, whether it's their end or our spotty internet at times. That's annoying. And also, you can't just get up and pee and pause the game. That's a little bit annoying. You've got to try to nestle yourself in an attic somewhere and hope your character stays alive when you return from relieving yourself.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to stress we.
Yeah, that is one of the things that I liked back when you'd play the other campaigns, is you could go into your Pip-Boy, or if you went into a computer, you were safe. You were kind of like in a bubble. No one could touch you.
Mm-hmm.
Not so in this. It's turned into like a survival zombie game where even when you're checking your maps, you're not safe. And that stresses me out. I'm like, I need moments where I know I can be at peace and gather my things, sort through all the crap I've collected, because there is so much junk that you need to build your stuff.
You're too scared to look through your inventory
Yeah.
because you never know what's going to sneak up on you.
And if you're anything like me, who likes to have everything in order and get a little OCD with your inventory, then you spend a lot of time in it. And I can't do that because I can't concentrate because I'm panicked that I'm going to get attacked by a stupid mole rat that's popped out of the ground underneath my feet. So yeah, there's little gripes like that I have with this too. So I can live with that. It just kind of adds to the difficulty, and I can accept that. I'm looking forward to seeing how the dynamics will shift in a few months when they add all this extra content for free.
Now, it wasn't all frustration and sadness, however. I was sitting there minding my own business, cooking up a squirrel on a stick. And I noticed that towards the campfire that I was cooking at, there was a man in a clown mask walking towards me quite slowly and deliberately. I got a little scared because I was like level 4 and he was in triple digits.
Mm-hmm.
And so I did what anybody would do in that situation, and I waved at him. And then he waved at me and gave me a gift of food and water.
Should I tell you that you're still too low level to actually be attacked by other players? So that's partially why.
Okay, I thought the clown man liked me.
It probably does, but I believe you have to be level 5 to participate in player versus player. So you're still safe.
So if I don't get any more experience points,
You'll be
I
fine.
am invincible.
No, you're not, because you can still be attacked by the wildlife.
Oh, fudge. I forgot about that.
Yeah.
Well, that's our Fallout 76 thoughts.
Yes.
Not a home run, but it is, like you said, more enjoyable than I expected it to be.
And improving, which is always a great thing to see and gives you something to look forward to.
If we had have jumped on board at day one, we might have been very dissatisfied with it and never gone back to it. But you give it some time, things get better. Sometimes that's the best choice, to sit and just observe for a bit.
And the good news is copies of Fallout 76 are like super cheap right now because it flopped so bad.
Because it was so bad.
So now's a good time to get like a really, really cheap copy and then wait till the update comes and then enjoy it. So, yeah. Any other games that you've been playing?
Oh, a lot.
Okay.
I've been playing a chunky amount of Red Dead Redemption 2.
Yeehaw.
Yeehaw. We had to leave our previous camp.
Oh, no.
Maybe had a little bit of trouble with the law. And
Well,
we
sugar, what did you do?
We had to relocate, found ourselves a new place down near Saint Denis, and I thought it was called Saint Denis.
Isn't that based roughly... Is it
It's Louisiana swampland, basically.
So it is like around New Orleans.
Mm-hmm.
That's cool because I've been there now.
Yeah, well, it's called Saint Denis.
Mm-hmm.
And I saw it on the map, just thought it was going to be called St. Denis.
Not in that area.
Not in that area, no. It's been pretty great, and I said how much I enjoyed the interactions at the camp. It's just awesome to be walking through the camp and going to hand over a deer carcass to the, add to the provisions of the camp and keep everyone fed and happy. And then you hear two people squabbling on the other side of the camp. You walk over there and you can start a mission to help one of them out. So you can sort of intervene in the politics of your friends. And boy, don't we just love that. In real life, it's not fun. In video games, it's bloody great.
Well, you have probably more options or more outlandish options, I guess, as far as intervening in video games than you would have in real life. And less severe consequences, I imagine, for taking those options.
If only you could reload checkpoints in life.
That too. Where's the save point?
Now, apart from that, I've mostly been playing a lot of Chrono Trigger on DS. Finally started Chrono Trigger. All these years later, it was originally like on the Super Nintendo or something. So it's been a while since it launched. I have the DS version, which I picked up for a pretty penny in the United States of America. Thank you, region-free DS original. And I decided to give that a try, and I've pumped like 7 hours into it this week, which for a handheld game, which I've only really been playing to and from work and on meal breaks, that's a lot in a week. It's a fair bit. This episode is quite chunky, and I am going to be playing Chrono Trigger for quite a while. It's a JRPG. It's going to take me a couple of weeks to get through. So maybe I'll just sit on the information about that one, keep it to myself.
And save it for next week.
Got to keep my secrets at some point. Can't tell everybody everything on the podcast. I like wearing odd socks.
Okay then.
Sorry, let's get that out there.
Let's jump into all the E3 news right after this. Share the love. Like us on Facebook at facebook.com/thegaminglovers.
Now, there were a lot of games revealed during a lot of different press conferences. Some were good, some were great, some were breathtaking.
You're breathtaking!
You're breathtaking! Some of those fantastic moments we'll get into more detail as we go through each conference in turn. But the excitement of the press conferences at E3 kicked off with Microsoft and someone who's had some very misguided press conferences in the past. Yes. I think they did very, very well this year.
Oh, yes. Probably one of the best press conferences of E3 this year.
I would agree with that. They were in my top 3 for sure. Starting off with The Outer Worlds, made by Obsidian Entertainment. We got to see some more of that. You got to see different choices you can make, which is what we always like.
We love Obsidian.
Obsidian have made some of our favourite sequels and pseudo-sequels, like
KOTOR 2, The Sith Lords.
And Fallout New Vegas.
Yes.
So it does have very much a Fallout feel to it. You cross Fallout with a bit of Borderlands, I think you said, and it looks pretty good. It's coming out October, which of course everything's going to be coming out either in October, November this year or March, April next year. It's basically everything that was announced at E3 will be in those 2 brackets.
Those are the game seasons. Pretty typical. But I have high hopes for that one, and I'm hoping that it can live up to the hype that has been built around it. But it does look pretty good so far.
Yeah, you're not usually a full first-person shooter fan, but if you combine that with RPG elements, which you have experienced in the past in certain games, you're interested? The Outer Worlds?
I'm definitely interested. Look, I definitely prefer third person. It makes me feel less nauseous. I can play them for longer periods of time.
Yep.
But that said, I have trained myself a little more in recent years to play more first person. Otherwise, I kind of cut myself off from a huge chunk of gaming. So, Fallout has definitely helped me with that. Borderlands has also helped me out with that. And because this kind of feels like a marriage of the two, I'm feeling like this should be a good experience. I'm fingers crossed that there will be no nausea.
No nausea.
Yes.
Well, here's hoping. Minecraft has turned 10 years old, and as a result, we've also got a spin-off game called Minecraft Dungeons.
I know.
Which looks a bit Diablo-ish. The isometric viewpoint, you're running through hordes of zombies and creatures and creepers and skeletons and
AKA baby's first RPG.
so condescending.
Well, to be fair, most of the people I know that play Minecraft are little kids. I don't really know. I can't think of any adults in our gamer circle that play Minecraft. It's the kids.
Well, it's 10 years old. Some of them might have started off as kids
That's
and become
true.
adults.
That's very, very true.
I never know.
But that said, this might bring in a new audience, might capture the imagination of some older gamers and stuff too, so that should be interesting to see.
Well, I was actually thinking the other way around. This might be, like you said, baby's first RPG. People who have only played Minecraft try this because it has Minecraft in it.
Mm-hmm.
And then they go, oh, I like this style of game. What else is there that is like this? And so on and so forth. And the indoctrination begins. Ninja Theory, who are a pretty darn good developer in past entries in their portfolio, have a new game called Bleeding Edge. Ninja Theory made a Devil May Cry game. They made Hellblade, Enslaved, and, well, we've got a wicked cool art style for a 4-on-4 online shooter melee combat game.
There's a lot of games I can definitely appreciate the art style. Even if I'm not really into the concept itself, I'm like, that looks cool. Not my game, but that definitely looks cool.
I don't know why, but you said, oh, I really want to play as the big girl with the pink hair. That's your takeaway?
That's because she reminds me of one of the characters in Borderlands, of Ellie, the really big chick. She's so funny. And so when I saw that character, I'm like, oh my word, that would be pretty funny. But yeah, those kind of games, generally not the games that I end up playing, but they still look like a lot of fun.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, not what I intend on playing, but I really dug the art style.
And the sense of humour in the trailer too.
Yeah, good stuff.
I appreciate a really good launch trailer or an announcement trailer that is fun, that can make fun of itself a little bit too. We had a few games that were a bit self-deprecating or making fun of other kind of tropes and things like that. So I always enjoy seeing a more creative way to announce a video game that doesn't take itself too seriously.
Mm-hmm. Well, if you don't want to take things too seriously, you should probably steer away from Ori and the Will of the Wisps, because you know that's going to be a heartbreaking game.
Yes.
The previous entry in that series was definitely emotional roller coaster.
Mm-hmm.
And if you like Castlevania Metroid style gameplay and you haven't played Ori and the Blind Forest yet, it's recommended to do so.
Highly recommended.
Will of the Wisps comes out February next year, 2020, going to be one of those cracking big chunky years for gaming, I think. A Microsoft first-party exclusive, I would assume. Probably a bit on PC as well. They're being quite open with their Xbox and PC crossovers now.
Possibly the Switch, given the crossplay.
Yeah, Microsoft's getting cozy with everyone. It's getting a bit weird.
Except PlayStation.
Where were they on this E3? Sony, very suspicious by their absence as well.
Got kicked out by Google.
Oh, well, people found it laughable that Microsoft were entering the gaming world when the original Xbox was announced, so you never know who's going to be the next powerhouse.
I don't find it laughable that Google has thrown its hat in the ring. I'm just surprised it took them so long, to be honest.
Yeah.
They're a juggernaut, so it should be interesting to see the ripple effects that they have on the industry, but that's a discussion for another day.
The Blair Witch!
Oh my goodness, that looks so creepy.
This is a game that, when I was watching the trailer, not knowing what it was, I would have put money down that this was Outlast 3. You have a video camera, you're in the woods, you're trying to run for your life. That sounds like Outlast to me. And I thought, ooh, are we getting an Outlast 3? And then the Blair Witch.
The symbol.
Talk about reviving old IPs.
Yes.
I mean, when did that come out? 2000?
Yeah.
99?
I was like a little tween when that hit, and that became kind of a phenomenon really in that genre of movies. So there's going to be a lot of younger kids now that maybe have heard of it but aren't as familiar with it. So it's going to be kind of a fresh feeling, surprisingly, like a rejuvenation into that.
Yeah. Gameplay-wise, if obviously the Blair Witch the movie itself is a first-person camcorder found footage.
Found footage, yeah.
So I assume it's going to be like Outlast. You're going to have a lot of use of that camcorder as your gameplay gimmick, I suppose. And if they can follow... I mean, sometimes copying an existing game, if you do it well enough, isn't necessarily a bad thing.
So long as you don't lift their code like some people have done in the past, then it's all good.
I'm telling you, my lawyers have denied those facts. I'm completely innocent. I'm looking forward to that. That comes out in August this year. But hey, you know what's breathtaking?
What's breathtaking? You're breathtaking.
I'm not breathtaking. Keanu Reeves is breathtaking.
That he is.
That was kind of a big surprise. CD Projekt Red Cyberpunk 2077. Their next big game since The Witcher 3, which captured a lot of hearts and minds, brought in a lot of new fans to that developer. They've always been assessed as one of the top production developers that isn't, an Ubisoft or someone like that. If there's a Dungeons and Dragons alignment chart, they are the lawful good.
It's interesting to see them go from the fantasy realm into sci-fi, and those two kind of go hand in hand really kind of well. This one looks very Blade Runner-ish. There's so many elements in this that are just kind of fascinating to me, but that pop at E3 when you see Keanu Reeves' face in the game, everyone lost it. And then he's on stage and they lost it all over again. So much fun. Probably one of the highlight moments of the whole conference for this year.
I actually think he was quite blown away with the reaction he got.
Yeah.
He seemed a bit off a step after that because he was just almost sheepish and embarrassed.
Well, sometimes celebrities don't get that warm a welcome at these things.
Oh, they certainly do not.
It's kind of like celebrities at WrestleMania. They don't always go over well, especially if the fans know that they're there for money and don't actually care about the product. They see through that. But if they know that the person that is there is one of the people, then they'll be embraced and given such a warm welcome like he was.
It does look cool. Very much has a Deus Ex feel to it. Human augmentation, completely obsessed. That's all everyone's obsessed with in that game is human augmentation. You can have bullet arms and blades and scanning out of your brain and just, it's going to be good.
It looks fascinating. I want to see more about it. I want to see more gameplay. I want to see more footage of just all the different intricacies.
Well, this will be another one that is first person as well.
Yeah.
And interestingly enough, they've made sure to confirm this week that you can play without killing anybody.
Interesting.
So you can go completely non-lethal, just like you can in Deus Ex, just like I love to do in Metal Gear Solid. Sometimes you don't want blood and body counts.
So you can do a pacifist run. That's interesting.
Very interesting. And of course, Keanu Reeves, so that's going to be a winner.
Yeah, it's like, John Wick's in the game.
The man can do no wrong at the moment. We talked a little bit about Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order. We saw another little snippet of that, of our Jedi friend climbing up an AT-AT.
Yes, I had to listen to last week's episode where you were going solo. Han Solo.
Oh, it's spreading.
And I think I am more optimistic about this game than you are.
Well, I think I've been burnt by Star Wars more than you have.
That's probably true. I have a lot of faith in this game. I want to be excited. I want to be pumped for it. I'm going to just say, yep, it's going to be great. I am a little sad that you can't create a character, that it's kind of a linear story by the looks of things. Yeah. But that said, it still looks like it's going to be a lot of fun. There are still amazing stories told in linear stories. I mean, Uncharted and The Last of Us have shown that time and time again.
Well, I said in that podcast that I feel like they are holding something back and that hopefully that will be what blows everyone's minds.
Well, they don't want to give everything away in the trailers.
No, of course not. But the people who played this game at E3 played that AT-AT in the swamp level. Yep. And they said that was more enjoyable than what was shown on the trailer. So there you go. Well, maybe I was right. Maybe I was wrong. We'll have to wait and see. But I am still excited for it. But this is like when an ex-lover says, no, I'll come back, I'll be different this time. I've played so many Star Wars games, not all of them are good, and I really do want this to do well. I'm just scared.
Mm-hmm.
I've been hurt before.
Oh, poor window.
The Xbox Game Pass was definitely a main feature of this press conference. It's getting a bunch of new games, including Arkham Knight, all right now, right here, right now.
Yeah, all the Microsoft first-party games are going to be included in that right away, which is, in of itself, a pretty good deal. And then they'll be adding, like any other subscription service, more games each month. And there's an interesting kind of hack that you can do, and I'm not sure how long it's going to last before they realize that you can do this and then they change the servers and stop people from doing this. But there are ways to get the Game Pass service really cheap for a long time.
Yeah, they've introduced Xbox Game Pass Ultimate. So that includes your Xbox Live Gold subscription, so you can play online. It includes the Xbox Game Pass, and it includes their new PC Game Pass.
Yes.
For games like Halo that are launching on PC and enable you to use your subscription service to play these games on your PC.
Yep.
Now, that is a new tier of subscription that they've introduced, and they have a $1 for 1 month trial.
Yes.
Now, it actually states in the fine print, so I don't think it's actually a hack, but if you have any existing Xbox Live Gold subscription, whether it be 1 month or up to 36 months, you pay that $1 and add that one extra month for your trial, it upgrades your entire pre-existing Xbox Live Gold subscription to Ultimate, which includes Game Pass, which includes the PC Game Pass, for whatever length of gold you had for one single dollar. Now, the reason they're doing this is because when your current subscription expires, whether that be in 1 month or whether that be in 36 months, you will be upgraded to the $15.99 or whatever it is Ultimate subscription fee.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I thought this was too good to pass up, so I decided to give the Xbox Game Pass Ultimate a try. Have a little idea of how we're going to enjoy that, and we'll discuss that at the tail end of the episode.
Mm-hmm.
But for that price, access to library of games that I'll probably only play once. I do like to own games, not just borrow them. And this does feel very much like a rental service. But I ended up getting a whole bunch of it for quite cheap, so I figured, why not?
Mm-hmm.
Why not give it a spin?
So a lot of people are kind of using that little loophole to get a whole lot of money's worth. They're buying like the 3-year gold subscription, then getting the upgrade for the $1.
Which brings it to less than half price if you're going for the month-to-month Ultimate subscription.
Mm-hmm. So if it still works like that, something to look into before that somehow changes.
We will have to wait and see how quickly that has stopped
Yes.
after E3. Battletoads are back.
I know.
Did anybody invite them to the party?
I think they invited themselves.
It's one of those things there has been a demand for all these years, and Battletoads was big back in the Super Nintendo era.
Mm-hmm.
They haven't seen much success since then, but
No.
they're still beloved. We have a 2D cartoony art style, standard 2D side-scrolling brawler, just like Battletoads used to be. It's back. That's really all I have to say about that.
Them and their gross names. There is one game, like a really short trailer that caught my eye, Spiritfarer, where you have this little boat and you kind of keep building and adding onto it. And it didn't give you too much information. It looks like there's a lot of building of friendships and farewells and things like that. So I'm not entirely sure of how all the gameplay mechanics are going to work. It was a very short trailer, but it looked intriguing to me. I'm like, building like a little village on a boat. Seemed kind of like fun.
It had a cool little sketched art style too, which is nice. And speaking of sketching, RPG time, baby. The Legend of Wright. When I first saw that, I thought, is this Phoenix Wright? But it's not.
Objection!
He's going to be on that case. But we've got like basically a sketchbook. The art style is like an open sketchbook. Some sketches are animated and moving. Sometimes it's bits of paper moving across a screen. You've got erasers with trains drawn on them going up tracks. It's a very cool art style.
Super cool.
I like when people use new artistic ideas, and even if they don't look like high-definition rendered graphics, sometimes a drawing on a bit of paper moving around a screen is all you need to have that memory of when you're back in primary school trying to keep yourself busy.
Of filling all your school workbooks with drawings instead of the actual schoolwork. Sounds about right. I'm pretty sure that's the majority of my school books from school.
You visited Colorado, did you not?
I did.
Was it anything like the trailer to Wasteland 3, which was saying, come visit Colorado. We have everything you need.
The bit of Colorado I saw didn't quite look like that. We weren't up in the Rockies. So, but it was kind of fun. I'm like, hey, Colorado. And the sign that you see that got featured quite a few times in that trailer, I think is the one that they use for Cars, because I think the Pixar movie Cars is roughly based in that area in the States.
Radiator Springs.
Yeah. So just a weird little factoid thing that I noticed.
Yeah. Wasteland 3 looks pretty much like another standard post-apocalyptic Borderlands-y art style. You know what you're getting into. Didn't really stand out to me. We've got a new Star Wars Lego game, which is going to cover all 9 trilogy.
And it looks like even the stuff from like the newer movies doesn't have like the audio dialogue lifted like it has been doing with previous ones, which I'm kind of happy about.
Yeah.
It looks like they're going back to their roots with just the weird noises and stuff. And that makes me so happy. So I'm pumped for that. We might actually, go back to our roots when it comes to Lego games and play through it all again.
Interestingly enough, it did say all new. So I don't think this is just a compilation of the previous Lego game and a little bit of new stuff. I think they're going to completely
Reset
all 9 movies, and it may be more condensed because that's a lot of material to cover.
You never know, though.
But sometimes, just like this podcast, you should probably condense it, but we're going to go for well over what we should.
Some exciting news for Double Fine Production Studios. They are officially joining Microsoft as one of their first-party studios, like in-house making games. So a nice little safe haven for them.
I did like Tim Schafer's little acceptance speech of thanking Microsoft, saying we're here to do whatever you want us to make Halo stuff, we can do it. You want us to make Gears of War stuff. You want us to make Excel stuff, Microsoft Excel. It's all good, I can do it. And they're like, no, just do what you're doing. He's like, oh, thank goodness.
I was lying.
It's a lot of pressure. Double Fine have been a good developer as far as reviving old games. I recently played Day of the Tentacle, which was redone by Double Fine Studios. I think. Just believe me when I say that. It's fine. They've also made Broken Age, which did feel very much like a point-and-click adventure from the 90s, but it was made brand new a couple of years ago. That was a fantastic story. I needed a guide for that one as well. Point-and-click adventures are difficult, okay? I am just proud I got through Day of the Tentacle without one. But I'm looking forward to what they bring to the Microsoft lineup. That's exciting stuff.
Speaking of like uber exciting, Microsoft Flight Simulator is back.
Back and shinier than ever. And they had a wide variety of locations shown. We had pyramids, we had cities, we had giraffes. And that's not even the stuff in the sky. That's where most of the gameplay takes place, is in the sky. Microsoft Flight Simulator used to be... I played a lot of flight simulators back in the 90s because my father loves all things planes.
Yes.
We had a computer that could run Chuck Yeager's aerial combat or something, Jane's USNF and ATF and all these other flight simulators that we absolutely loved playing. And Microsoft Flight Simulator was one of the first ones, and it is back with a brand new entry that looks super rad, great weather effects. It's going to be good. There's obviously a condensed market for games like this, but when something like Farming Simulator DLC is outselling pre-orders for Cyberpunk on Steam, you know that these very specific simulator things have their audiences.
That's one of the things that just wigs me out. Every time I go into a gaming shop and I see Farming Simulator still at like full price, I'm like, how?
It keeps on selling, baby.
I don't understand.
Bale that hay.
It's so yeah. To me, that seems like you could play that on a mobile game. For a fraction of that cost. But anyway, moving on.
Speaking of Microsoft games from back in the day, we've got Age of Empires 2 coming back in action, remastered in 4K, just in case you really did not want to see any pixels on your little swordsman.
Another one that looked like it could be potentially heartbreaking and beautiful, Way to the Woods, where you play as a mother deer and you're looking after your little Bambi. And yeah, I'm terrified of how many ways you can kill off your little child.
Not even that. I'm just scared of the narrative potential for some one of those two dying. That's the sort of game, as soon as I see it, you're this lovely mother and child in the woods.
It's peaceful music, serene, gorgeous, and you're like, yeah, this is going to go wrong, isn't it?
This is about bonding, and no doubt they're going to kill one of them, and I don't know which one, and I don't want to know. I don't want to play this. It's too scary. I'll play Outlast. I'll play the Blair Witch. I'm not playing Way of the Woods.
Where's my comfort blanket?
Way to the Woods. Will you play something like that?
I don't know.
It has a journey sort of
That's
feel
the kind
to
of
it.
thing where I want to... I know you hate this, but it's the kind of thing I'd want to look up spoilers for. I'd be like, okay, is this going to emotionally ruin me?
It destroys the impact of your heartbreak and depression.
Exactly.
Wait, what? It seems like every year there is a new Dragon Ball Z game, but at this one, it looks like it's finally the one we've been waiting for, and it's retelling the story for like the 80th time.
And not just the one you've been waiting for, the one the creator of the anime and the manga has been waiting for.
Dragon Ball Z Kakarot, which is Goku's Saiyan name.
Mm-hmm.
Kakarot.
What a great name. Yeah, Goku's a much better name.
It looks pretty good. I love the fact that even something that started off as 2D animation in the anime looks so darn good in 3D.
Yeah.
The character models look like they are living animation, and that's fantastic. The lighting effects from the beam attacks and things like that, fantastic. And I'm looking forward to it. I hope they do an English dub. They would be very foolish not to. All we had was the Japanese audio on the trailer, but either way.
It will take a while, I imagine, for that. If it does get dubbed, it will delay it a bit, but I think it would be worth the wait.
There are so many darn games to talk about. We're not even halfway through the Microsoft.
I know. I think we need to pick up the pace here.
No, but there's one I want to talk about. 12 minutes.
Oh my goodness, that game looks like it's going to wreck me.
All these games about violence, murder, mayhem, chainsaws, that doesn't break us. It's the heartbreaking games. This looks like a Groundhog Day scenario. You are trapped in a time loop. Your wife, I assume, keeps dying, keeps getting attacked. You're trying to stop the loop from happening. You're trying to solve things. And if we know anything from time loop movies, it's that no matter what you do, you will fail repeatedly. And
go crazy like poor Okabe in Steins Gate.
This is a game that was supposed to be out a few years ago. One person was making it. We talked about studios made of single people a few episodes ago. This started off as one of them, but he was falling a bit behind his estimated time of release. It was supposed to be out 4 or 5 years ago. And so he has increased his team to 5 people.
Well, the difference a few extra hands can make.
It looks like it's going to be good. It's the exact sort of game that I really enjoy playing. It looks like it has puzzles. Looks like it has some good story beats and some bonding with characters that hopefully will not die permanently. Because death sort of loses its edge when you have a time loop, because you're just like, we'll just redo it. Doesn't matter. But
you could turn into a psychopath, really. You'd get so used to seeing it that it wouldn't hit you as hard, I guess, after a while.
It would not. And speaking of internal trauma, we had a trailer for Gears 5 with the character freaking out and having ghost heads pop out of her brain. Gears 5, they've taken the of war off. It's just Gears now. Gears 5 comes out September 10 this year. What do you think?
I've never really played Gears, so I mean, I'm excited for those who love the series to get to play another entry, but I'm kind of like, cool.
Yeah.
There's another one.
It's an interesting one because it was one of Microsoft's big, look, we have first-party exclusive games. And I played the first one on 360. I did not play any of the others. And so I'm out of the Gears loop, unfortunately. There's been...
Or COG.
That's what the soldiers are called.
Are they really?
Yes, they
Oh
are.
my gosh.
Very nice. And it seems like every third game is getting a Terminator crossover. Terminator is crossing over with Gears for the new film, Terminator Dark Fate. And speaking of weird crossovers, Forza Horizon 4, with its super realistic looking cars and incredible driving physics, is crossing over with Lego. Everything is awesome indeed. Lego Speed Champions.
I think some Forza fans, there's like two camps. There's either those who are like, yay, fun, quirky, and others that are like, how dare you do this to my precious, realistic game. I hate it. Forza is dead to me.
Well, the Forza, in their defense, the Forza series has sort of split. Horizon is the more arcadey, silly one, as we saw when they went to Australia in Forza Horizon 3 and had a helicopter car that you were racing against. That sort of weirdness. And we've had Hot Wheels crossovers, and now we have Lego. So it looks like fun. I would play that sort of thing. Comes out this week.
Let's talk about a game that has been making a lot of buzz at E3 this year, one that has won a lot of awards on the floor from those who have had the chance to actually get their hands on it.
Oh, I just hope it's something that I'll actually play.
It is something you are going to love, something that you've played the first game of, Dying Light 2.
Ooh, yeah.
This has so much hype coming out at E3. Everyone loves it. You are like, yeah, when's it come out? When's it come out?
It has won a lot of awards for Best On Floor, Best of Show. It's exciting times. I did a full 50-hour co-op campaign with my good buddy the Falcon in the first Dying Light. Just give me more of that. I'd say inject it straight into me, but if it's got zombies, that's probably not a smart thing to do.
I believe this time around you're playing as someone that's infected. So it's going to change the dynamics a little bit.
Oh, dear. Let's talk about managing your food and water. Maybe you need to manage your zombie medication.
Speaking of management, State of Decay 2 Heartland expansion is out.
Out. I love it when they announce things are out today. And everyone's like, yay!
Be like, here's all this cool stuff. Oh, and by the way, you can just play it right now. And everyone gets out their phone and just starts ignoring the conference and plays games.
As long as you don't stealth launch a console like Sega did with the Sega Saturn and just say, hey, you can buy a new console today. Go get it. And everyone's like, we haven't saved money for this. And then you kill a company.
That's why you give games that are like cheap or free, like... That's what you do, like, today.
State of Decay 2 did not review very well. I really enjoyed the first one, janky as it was. Hopefully the expansion, just like Fallout, time goes on. Hopefully bad games can recover. We did an episode about that as well. And,
speaking of janky controllers... I'm just going to find a way to segue from everything you've said.
Good luck.
There is another Xbox Elite wireless controller, and they were showing off all the different things. I just love that how much battery life this sucker has. I'm like, man,
40 hours
40
per
hours.
charge.
I'm like, there's no way I could even last not going to the bathroom for that long. So that's impressive.
Do you only pee when your battery runs out of charge?
Sometimes I use that as it's telling me it's run low.
I have to get off the couch now.
Let's switch controllers. It forces me to get up and do that. Put one in the dock, switch that around, go to the bathroom. That's only for true marathon sessions.
Well, I think you need to get off your tail more often. And speaking of tails... The next Tales game, Tales of Arise, was previously leaked, but it was officially announced at E3's Microsoft press conference. I've already talked about that one, so talking about it would be quite unnecessary. You know what else is unnecessary?
A game with pop vinyl figures?
Gears of War and pop vinyls. That's just on a mobile game. I'm gagging right here.
Speaking of gagging... We're getting really loose with our segues.
Crossfire X Military Mayhem Xbox One 2020. Yeah, that just looks like another generic shooter.
Speaking of generic,
Excuse me.
Xbox is bringing Phantasy Star Online to
You are
the
going to get
West.
slapped.
I know.
That
But
is
you've
not
gotta-
generic.
I know it's not, but if you haven't heard of this before, and it looks like Final Fantasy, and the way it spells fantasy looks like a $2 shop knockoff way of spelling it, it's kind of funny.
There was a Phantasy Star, and yes, with a PH, Phantasy Star game on the Sega Master System, my very first video game console, way back in the day.
Which one's been around longer, though?
I don't know or care. That's not important. What is important is Phantasy Star Online 2 is like the biggest Japanese online RPG you could possibly find. It has a worldwide cult following, even though it's only been in Japanese. Now, it's finally coming west on Xbox. The exact console I thought it would not come out on.
Because Xbox is so not popular in Japan. But then I guess if they're making it to the West, they went with what's popular to an extent in the West. It does have better sales here.
Very interesting.
So, yeah, I know that it's huge. I find it funny that it looks so similar art style wise to Final Fantasy, and that the fantasy, it just to me reminds me so much of like cheap knockoffs.
Final Phantasy Star Online 14.2.
Now, you had talked about last week.
Wait, there might be dragons in Phantasy Star Online 2. Speaking of dragons...
Oh dear. Last week you had mentioned that this had been leaked, and the was it the director of Microsoft was like ranting on Twitter?
That was the director of Bandai Namco.
Oh, there you go.
It was full of backslashes and semicolons and just JKL. Blah, 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 blah.
The Elden Ring.
From Software, the mind of Miyazaki, the game creation master that he has been, and
George R.R. Martin from Game of Thrones. That series.
the story of Fire and Ice, the Song of Fire and Ice, whatever it's called.
There's so many different ones. But that, oh my goodness, looks like it's going to be so unbelievably punishing. And don't get attached to any characters that you meet or any NPCs, because you know what's going to happen to them.
Well, you'll probably be the one killing them because
Spoiler alert.
you're usually fighting everyone and everything.
I
in those sort of
suppose.
games.
It just sounds like a brutal combination.
Yeah. Like I said, if this had have been first revealed on this stage, man, it would have helped Microsoft hit a home run, but it got...
Leaked ahead
Leaked
of time.
early.
So that is a bit unfortunate for them.
That is. Borderlands 3 will be coming out in the near future.
Very near future.
This year, September, I believe. But in the meantime, since the Borderlands Handsome Collection, free on PS Plus right now, also included in the Xbox Game Pass, you can get access to it a lot. And there's new DLC
Which is free if you have the Handsome Collection.
for Borderlands 2.
Mm-hmm.
Free DLC.
Commander Lilith.
All these years later.
And it's substantial DLC. It's not even a small little snippet. It's a couple of hours with some decent story and fun, different gameplay. So if you have the Handsome Collection, or if you don't, but you do have access to Game Pass or PlayStation Plus and the like, and can download it for free, we highly recommend it.
It will bridge the gap between Borderlands 2 and Borderlands 3.
Give you something to enjoy as you wait for September to roll around.
And next year, the next generation officially begins of consoles.
Yes.
Microsoft have announced Project Scarlet will be launching holiday 2020, and Halo Infinite will be a launch title.
Looks like they're ready to take Google head on.
They wanted to replicate the success they had with the very first Xbox, which had a great killer first-person title called Halo. You may have heard of it. It was something that I had with my first Xbox wave of games. It was something myself and my good buddy the Falcon decided to give a shot one day, and we fell in love with it. And if they can capture another generation with those same launch title impact, well, that's what they're trying. We'll see if it pays off.
That we will.
Halo doesn't quite have the same luster it used to have, but
No.
as far as an online community, it's still beloved.
Oh, yeah.
And that was Microsoft's press conference. All of that. They said 60 games or something were going to be revealed in some way, shape, or form.
Yes.
There's a lot of detail.
Phil Spencer looked very smug on that stage, especially since PlayStation weren't even having a conference that year. It's like, I've already won.
A year or two ago, he looked very sheepish because Sony had all these incredible games, Spider-Man, Horizon Zero Dawn, and
God of
Microsoft
War.
said, well, we have games too.
At least we haven't heard stupid phrases like, you have phones, don't you?
Thankfully, no awkward moments on the Microsoft side of things. They
No.
capitalised on Sony's absence and had a lot of reveals for themselves and for third-party developers.
It flowed very well. The presenters all spoke very clearly. There wasn't really any awkward pauses. A couple of awkward gestures. Some people who clearly felt strange up on stage. But that said,
I love watching their hands. They just don't know what to do with them.
I know, right? You can tell people who don't do that often really, really struggle. But that is what makes E3 so charming for us, is seeing those moments. We love them so much. It's like, watching a disaster unfold in front of your very eyes. Speaking of disasters, let's see how Bethesda's doing after last year's E3. After this.
You're listening to the Gaming Lovers Podcast. Want to join the conversation? Visit thegaminglovers.com. Record your comment or question by clicking on the button on the right-hand side, and you could be featured in the next podcast.
Nothing like seeing the head of a big company having to come back and eat some humble pie in front of everybody.
Yes, Bethesda did not have the most impactful year, we should say. A lot of their big projects did stumble and fumble.
Yes.
Fallout 76 being the most noteworthy of which, but they have, like we said, are making improvements and working towards making that game everything that fans want it to be.
And owning their mistakes, which is really refreshing. Nice to see them say, hey, look, we've got feedback. We deserved this criticism and we've taken it on board and we're fixing it. I love that attitude. And that is really reassuring as like a gamer, as a fan, to see them willing to own that.
Yeah.
And fix it.
And speaking of improving games and expanding their franchises, The Elder Scrolls Blades was one of their big things from the past year.
Yep.
It is coming to Switch.
Yeah, Switchblades.
Elder Scrolls Blades, a game that I did get on early access and was not allowed to play because they were restricting who could play at what times, and it just never lined up for me. And it's been sitting on my phone for months, and I don't even know how well it plays.
Well, there you go. You can try it now. You can play it. Whatever account that you've made, you can play on your phone. You can transfer that same one over to your Nintendo Switch and continue that same campaign on either device. I think that's pretty rad.
That is pretty rad. It's something that should be done more often when you have the same game, especially when it's free
And
you
it's
don't
online.
have to buy it. It should be able to transfer your saves across. Good stuff, Bethesda. It's a good first impression. Then Fallout 76, we got a big thank you from the developers for sticking with it.
Yeah.
It had a terrible launch, and the community that stayed with it were loyal enough and helped each other out and helped Bethesda know what to fix. And there was a big thank you for that. I did like how Todd Howard said, I'm surprised you actually came back this year.
And it's cool to know that the community that have been playing Fallout 76 are being kind to one another, that they are helping newbies, they are giving them food and water and supplies, rather than just having all-out attacks. That's going to change now that they've added the new Battle Royale mode.
Yes, Fallout 76 has its normal Wasteland mode. It has a new survival mode coming where basically there are no defenses against other players. You can still play in the shared world, but they can kill you at any drop of a hat if you look at them funny with your clown mask. I'll get revenge. No, I know it. No one actually killed me. Revenge is not the right word. I will repay that clown's friendliness with death. And there is also Nuclear Winter, the new Battle Royale mode, which, of course...
With a ring of fire.
The ring of fire.
Burns.
Everybody needs a Battle Royale mode these days, and they're no different, with its own little Fallout twist. Whether it's competing with anything else, it's only just launched. We'll have to wait and see in a few weeks how that goes. One name I was very excited about at E3, Shinji Mikami. the brains behind the original Resident Evil game. He has his own studio called Tango Gameworks. They've made things like The Evil Within, and he has a new game set in Japan. So that's the first box ticked. With people disappearing.
Like a rapture.
Quite like the
Or they got
biblical
snapped.
rapture. Or Thanos got them. We got people vanishing. It's Ghostwire Tokyo. It looks a little bit psychological. It looks a little bit horror-ish. Just exactly what I want from Shinji Mikami. If they told me Shinji Mikami was making a 3D cutesy mascot platformer, I would be disappointed. If he is making a creepy game set in Japan, I'm all for it. Thumbs up. I'm excited.
Okay, that game's all yours.
Thank you very much. Elder Scrolls Online's another game that I have tried a little bit here and there. They have released so many large expansion packs, which made that already big world seem even larger. So I'm scared to dive into that. Again, online variants of these single-player RPGs I haven't enjoyed anywhere near as much as the single-player games, like Fallout 76. I haven't enjoyed as much as Fallout 4, for example. Elder Scrolls Online, I didn't enjoy as much as playing Skyrim. But the more improvements they make, the solid foundation they already have, they're building on it, and the fan base are rejoicing.
Absolutely. Wolfenstein makes another return with Youngblood, and it's gone 80s.
Wolfenstein, Doom, Commander Keen. What year is this? I'm so confused. Bloody Commander Keen. I'm still bitter on that.
Okay.
Wouldn't be an E3 without them ruining a nostalgic franchise into a free-to-play mobile game. Hot garbage. Wolfenstein Youngblood will be a co-op version. You can play it solo as well. It looks pretty good. More of the same, but pretty good.
From Arcane Studios, Deathloop is a new action game which basically kind of reminds me of that Tom Cruise movie.
What was it, End of Tomorrow?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where he dies but he comes back and has to try to keep getting further and further.
We love time loops.
Yes, that
And
seems
in
to
this
be a
one,
bit
we've
of a
got
common
two
theme.
people trying to kill each other,
Yes.
which causes the time loop.
Yes.
So why would you not just stop?
Stop killing each other and then there's no more time loop.
But Arcane have made Dishonored, they've made Prey, they've made some great games, and I like to see, I think they made Prey. Maybe they didn't. I don't know what I'm talking about, but I know they made Dishonored at very least, and Deathloop should be good. It looks good. I'm excited.
The trailer for it was very fun to watch.
And the bulk of the tail end of the Bethesda press conference was all about Doom Eternal. What did you think?
It was very long. Doom was a game I played a lot as a kid in school. It was one of the few games that was on the computer systems, but I've never really gotten back into it as an adult.
Well, it's a very fast-paced shooter. There is no time to breathe in between.
I like to be able to
action.
breathe as an asthmatic. Breathing's very important to me.
It is very important. Yeah, it looks more of the same. I enjoyed the most recent Doom outing. Probably not clamouring to play the sequel, but it does look like it's more of the same. If you greatly enjoyed Doom 2016 or whenever that came out, here you go. Other titles revealed at the Bethesda conference was Rage 2's getting some DLC that had a fantastic little sitcom feeling to it.
That made me laugh so much. I love it. That was one of those things that kind of just stuck out to me. Even though I've never really gotten into that game, that trailer, I was just hooked to it because it's just so funny. Worth looking up on YouTube if you've got a couple of minutes spare.
And apart from that, pretty much just the Elder Scrolls Legends, which is a card game trying to capture the Hearthstone fan base. That is getting an expansion soon. So nothing too exciting there, but maybe you wanted to hear about it. Maybe you're an Elder Scrolls Legends fan. We are trying to keep up with all of these announcements. There's a lot to talk about.
One thing I was actually really disappointed about this year was the lack of detail about Starfield, because that was one that caught my attention at last year's E3, and it was kind of
Missing in action.
yeah.
I believe Todd Howard did mention it in passing. He did say that it will come out before the Elder Scrolls 6. So
but very vague, very minimal information, which I was kind of bummed. I was hoping to see, I don't know, some concept art, a tiny little, even if it was just totally CGI, like hype trailer that ends up looking nothing like the in-game footage. You know, something.
no shortage of those.
Exactly, but you know, enough to get you going, oh, that looks interesting, you know. So I'm kind of bummed that was a bit overlooked this year.
Yeah, that is something. That's one of those games. As soon as you know that Bethesda are making a single-player RPG, it's like, yep, I'll get it.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty much all I needed to hear.
I'm like, ooh, tell me more.
Now, there were also some smaller press conferences during the whole E3 period, limited run games, the PC gaming show, the VR. There was also Devolver Digital, which I tried to watch, and it was age restricted, and I didn't know why. And then I actually watched it, and I found out why. It was basically a mock press conference that had explosions and guns and bullets, and the guest host was killed in action and revived as a zombie, and it was in her brain. Very weird. A lot of indie titles revealed there. We're trying to focus on the main ones. Ubisoft will be up next, darling. How did you think Ubisoft handled E3 2019?
A bit better than they have in the past this year. Not
Ubisoft
as
has
clumsy.
been weird.
They have had, what's kind of sad though is that I kind of look forward to their press conferences because they're such train wrecks. And this year they were actually pretty well organized, smooth. They had a bit of a slow start with the orchestra at the beginning. I think, I don't know what was happening on
The
stage.
Assassin's Creed Symphony.
Apologies.
Which I just hoped was the new entry in the game, and you play as a killing violinist.
Oh, goodness. That was a little bit of a slow start, but it was still enjoyable to watch. I don't mind the musical numbers as much as some people, as long as they don't drag too long. I don't mind the dance numbers either, again, so long as they don't drag too long. It was interesting, actually, with the Just Dance segment to see them acknowledge the people that really love that game in their community, like the Uber fans.
Mm-hmm. Or Uber.
Uber fans. Or Uber Eevee. I'm getting Eevee. But it was a nice gesture, I think, to include them in that and show a bit of love back to them. Mm-hmm. So that was one of those kind of warm fuzzy moment, I think, for me over the E3 conference.
Now, after the slowish start with the Assassin's Creed Symphony playing and singing with their sheet music for
I'm like, why did they need sheet music for that? There's no lyrics.
They then hit quite an impactful shot right out of the gates with Watchdog Legions, which was leaked earlier before E3, but we got the nice big full trailer to sit down and watch during the conference.
Yes.
And you were quite taken with the assassin grandmother.
Oh my gosh. Helen is awesome. She is the hero we need in this day and age. I love her. I find that concept, though, really fascinating of being able to play as near damn anybody in that game. Like, that is such a cool idea. And oh my goodness, the amount of voice work that it must have gone into this game and the writing, making sure that each character has unique dialogue to suit their characters too. Like, the way they talk with, like, the AI that's in their headset is all unique and like sounds like a real person and not just the same kind of dialogue that they're all spewing out.
Yeah.
So I'm like, oh, that's good.
London is under lockdown. You don't play as one big hero like you're so used to playing, the one special chosen one. Mm-hmm. You play as everyday schmucks.
Yeah, for people that have different skills. So if you need something hacked, you might use one person. If you need someone that's a good fighter, you might switch to somebody else. If someone dies, then you're going to have to choose somebody else that you've recruited and pick up from there. Yeah, that was like, whoa, okay, real heavy consequences. And I wonder if no one dies, if that changes how the story ends and stuff too.
Oh.
So I wonder if some are scripted deaths or if some, like, if you can avoid it. There's questions.
Very interesting. It's kind of cool.
Yeah.
Great variety of people to play as. It'll be funny to see which of the great heroes people choose. Mm-hmm. But yes, Helen, the old lady who was upset because there's no pigeons left in the park, probably breaks into Scotland Yard and hacks their computer system. Good on you, Helen.
I love it so much.
Then slowly sidles over like a barrier fence that she was trying to climb over. She doesn't want to injure her hips at that age.
That was like me getting off the horse in Utah. I can relate to Helen so much right now.
There's more Rainbow Six Siege content coming, which already has shown up by now, by the time you're listening to this podcast, but it was tomorrow when they revealed it. So it's already out. If you're playing Rainbow Six Siege, you can play as the Spy Man. Go for it. Adventure Time is joining the Smash Brothers-esque Brawlhalla. And, yeah.
With all the original voices as well from the series, so that's kind of nice.
Speaking of series, TV shows are a thing.
That they are.
And what happens when you have a TV show that looks behind the scenes at making an MMORPG? What was it called? Raven's Banquet. Mythic Quest, Raven's Banquet.
Yes. Mythic Quest, Raven's Banquet.
So you've got the makers of Always Sunny in Philadelphia, was it? Or just an actor?
You've got the main guy from Always Sunny in Philadelphia. You've got writers who worked on TV shows like Community, Megan Gans, who, when I heard that name, I'm like, she wrote some of my favourite episodes in that show. And then when they showed a snippet of this show, Abed from Community. That's not his real name. Danny Pudi. Oh, we love Danny Pudi. So I'm glad that he's still getting work. He's unfortunately been involved in a couple of different pilots that haven't kind of taken off in the last few years. So hopefully this one sticks. That will depend, I think, a lot on the writing. They have had Ubisoft working with them to make this series to make sure that the information, the lingo, all of that is respectful and accurate so that those of us who are big gamers and also who work in the industry and don't feel like they're being insulted, I guess.
Yeah. And thankfully it's a comedy, because if you tried to just film an actual show about making a video game, it'd probably be depressing as anything with hours and the crunch. Speaking of which, just a quick little side thing, we're going to talk about Nintendo later on, but they are delaying games to make sure people actually have lives outside of game development.
That's so nice.
That's kind of them.
Yes.
And I think Nintendo.
Well, I don't know. Part of me feels like that's a big shift, especially for Japanese culture where work is life. So huge kudos to them for doing that.
Well, speaking of life, there's also death. And no shortage of that during E3.
Yes.
John Bernthal. How do you even pronounce that last name? That is weird. The guy who played the Punisher and Shane in The Walking Dead was there with his dog for some reason.
Is it his companion dog? Can he not go anywhere without it?
I don't know, but I'm like, oh, this game's going to have a dog. No?
No, it's just there. And that poor dog, looks so, his ears were down. I'm like, oh, he's not happy to be on a loud stage.
Well, Ghost Recon Breakpoint was there. He is the star, not the dog, the actor.
Oh, I want the dog to be the star.
Did talk about that last week's episode, so we'll move along quickly. There's new Splinter Cell content, but it's part of a mobile game. Couldn't they stop doing this to me, please? Splinter Cell's one of those game series, Jet Set Radio. I just want another sequel. Just give me a proper game. That's all I want. But we've got the characters from Splinter Cell, Ghost Recon, The Division, and Rainbow Six. All the Tom Clancy franchises, all in one little stupid XCOM-looking mobile game. That's my thoughts.
I find it kind of funny, going back to Just Dance for 2020.
Smooth.
I think we were making fun of it last year that it was coming out on the Wii. It's doing it again this year, but why?
Hey, people who only own Wii consoles are waiting for that next big release, and all they get is Just Dance 2020.
It's their punishment for not upgrading to a better console.
2 systems ago, if you're keeping track.
Oh, wow.
That would be the equivalent of Microsoft releasing something on the original Xbox.
Oh, my goodness. That's so funny.
Just Dance 2020, you know what you're getting into there. Dancing. And I assume people are still buying these games.
They must be.
Because they keep making them.
Mm-hmm.
We have a new Rainbow Six game called Quarantine coming next year. Of course, they've gone far too long without introducing zombies. So, of course, I assume it's zombies. Because every game has to have zombies and Battle Royale. So, thumbs up. Thumbs down, who knows? We'll have to wait and see. The Division 2 is getting more content. Another one of those games that's constantly evolving, constantly being updated, constant new DLC being made. And if you're on board with the Division 2, you can go to the Pentagon and a zoo. So it just sounds like a sightseeing tour. I haven't played it. Can't report on how that's going to impact things.
Me either. On a side note, Ghost Recon is getting Delta Company, a official organised community group for ways to share your cosplay or
Fan art.
all sorts of interesting things.
Fanfic, I'm sure.
I'm sure there'll be that too.
The Adventures of John's Dog.
But it is always nice when companies will have a dedicated team to directly communicate and engage with fans of like a game and things like that, and be like to have a direct link to a game company and be able to engage with them almost like one-on-one, I think adds a nice touch. So
Well, we've talked about the importance of the community for games like Fallout 76, especially with the amount of online games that Ubisoft do have. Ghost Recon will be one of those, and having its own dedicated community.
And you never know, like if you're a big enough fan and you engage and communicate with the company directly, they might want to include you in stuff down the road. It's happened before from
Ubisoft
streamers
have done
and
it with trials.
yeah, exactly. They will contact you directly and sometimes give you access to stuff before everybody else. So there's a lot of pluses associated with that.
For Honor is another one of their online competitive games, which has a new mode. Shadows of the Hitokiri.
Yes, that one looks a little
Crazy
creepy.
samurai lady slicing up people.
Yes.
If that's what you like, look into it.
The Division is getting a film on Netflix.
Is it going to be any good?
Yay. Probably not. But you never know. Not all video game movies suck.
It's the sort of concept that easily works as a movie, though. Some video games you're like, nah, it doesn't work. You can't make this a narrative that's just linear in a movie sense. But when you have societies falling to pieces and you have soldiers, there's plenty to work with there.
Honestly, so long as you've got a solid writing team and a studio that's not going to keep undermining that vision, then it will go smoothly.
Yeah.
When you've got people that constantly keep trying to change the direction of something, that's when there's issues in translation.
It seems like Netflix originals as well do either hit or miss. There doesn't really seem to be a mid-ground.
No. But sometimes their misses are like amazingly bad that they're good. You know what I mean? Like they're like the B-grade movies that you love to watch and laugh at.
So are
Anyways.
you going to watch the Death Note movie? Because you still haven't.
No, because it's so gory.
Oh, gory.
That too.
Okay. Roller Champions. If you like roller skates and basketball and a giant skating rink, I assume it's for you. It looks good. And you can play it right now.
The pre-alpha
Demo. The way the guy hyped up Roller Champions.
It made it sound like it was out to buy now.
Do you guys want to play it? Do you want to know when you can play it? You can play it right now. You can download the pre-alpha demo. That's I'm amazed it's not just a wireframe model.
Yeah. That one looks kind of chumpy and very much like a, hey, let's see if we can make a humanoid version of Rocket League. So we'll see. You know, it might end up being really great. But
Could be.
you can just, it's
Still
one of
waiting.
those things I'm like, I'm not completely sold on that one.
There are a lot of games that you just got to take the wait and see with.
Absolutely.
And if you don't want to commit to buying them outright, you can always get the premium subscription service that everybody seems to have at the moment.
Yay.
Uplay Plus is getting premium subscription. It will be available on Stadia as well, which is a bit strange. So you can have 2 subscriptions for the price of 2.
Oh, yay. One, though, that I was excited for and the Ubisoft wrapped up their conference with for this year was Gods and Monsters.
Looks very much like a non-Nintendo Legend of Zelda game. Just by its style, its world. Looks very much like Breath of the Wild, but with a altered colour palette.
Yes.
And we have, I assume, Medusas and the Roman gods, the Greek gods, whichever one. Oh, there's both. There's 2 different ones, isn't there? 2 different sets. Maybe
there
they're
is.
fighting, squabbling.
That seems to be their jam at the moment. The creators of Assassin's Creed have delved from history into mythology, which kind of overlap a fair bit, to be honest.
Yep.
So they've gone a little more cutesy artsy, but a lot of the mechanics that you know from Assassin's Creed, you can kind of see still in this, at least in that short snippet that we were shown. So, yeah, it looks promising. It's something that's definitely made me go, So.
Yeah, we saw very little of it, but it's enough to catch your attention and put it onto your to-watch list.
Exactly.
For the future
And
reveals.
that's what these press conferences are for, to get the hype up.
Well, speaking of getting the hype up, I think the best press conference of the entire E3 may well have been Square Enix's, or Square Enix, or Square Enix, depending on how you want to pronounce it. I heard it so many different ways.
It's been said so many different ways. I'm like, say it however you want it.
And we're going to take a deep dive into that right after this.
Share the love. Follow us on Twitter at Brendo and Jem. That's BRENDOJEM.
And now for the part of the E3 conference that I think the world had been waiting for so desperately. Square Enix and the much anticipated, begged for, demanded, scream, pull, tug, tantrum, throwing cry of desperation for Final Fantasy VII Remake.
Now, this is a game announced many years ago at this
Yes.
point. One of those things I thought, I'll believe it when I see it. Last year was completely absent from E3.
Yes.
Which did not help suspicions.
So many people were so mad, and we had a good chuckle about that, I believe, last year on the podcast. But this year, wow.
Yeah, we've got a lot more of a clear vision of what it looks like. The
Gorgeous.
Midgar section of the game looks like it's going to be its own game, basically. Its own disc, its own
Didn't they
entry.
say 2 Blu-ray discs worth of content?
Now, that's the thing. This was supposed to be episodic, don't forget.
Mm.
I'm worried. They have given us a release date of March next year,
Yes.
2020, and that's excellent. I think that's going to be half the game, and we'll have to wait another 6 years for the next one.
I hope
Or
not
they
6
could
years.
release an episode every 2 years, and then by the time you get to episode 7, they got to remake the first 5 to catch up with current consoles. That's what I'm concerned about, but what we have seen looks fantastic.
Yeah.
I enjoyed the gameplay style. It looks like a nice mix of the Final Fantasy 15 combat, for
Yeah.
example. You can still use your powers and have time stop while you're navigating menus, which is good. I think it strikes a good balance of what you want in a modern-day Final Fantasy game.
Yeah.
Everybody lost their freaking minds when Tifa was finally revealed.
Yes.
She's been very scared that she's been absent for this long. Everyone was like, is she even in the game? Is she? She's finally been shown.
Yep.
And everyone was so excited that she's still playing fisticuffs. Cloud gets his big sword.
Yep.
Barrett has a gun arm. Tifa just punches people.
Mm-hmm.
That's a badass chick right there. What did you see that you liked? Because you haven't played the first Final Fantasy, but you know enough about it from pop culture references.
Well, I'm just excited to experience it with, like, completely, I guess, fresh eyes, as opposed to coming in with, you know, rose-colored glasses or nostalgia. I'm going in it completely blind, I guess.
You're right. The nostalgia could be a double-edged sword. People might not enjoy this game because they have their own expectations. You walking in completely fresh might be you might think it's the best thing in the world.
Mm-hmm. So I love a lot of the recent Final Fantasy games because I joined the party late, you know. So I didn't have all the, I guess, the fandom linked with the old original classics that so many other gamers have.
Yep.
And so I can kind of go, oh yeah, this is a really fun game, and you'll have other Final Fantasy fans be like, oh, that one's a rubbish. It's like the worst one in the series. And I'll be like, that's a rubbish game? That? Like, your standards are unbelievably high if you think that is a bad game. I always love the graphics and the art style. I think the music as well is just always so breathtaking. So I'm just really looking forward to that. The voice cast sounds really solid, which I believe is the first time these characters have had proper voices. So that should be interesting to see how fans react to hearing these characters fully fleshed out, you know?
Yeah.
For me, I'm I'm excited to play a new game, I guess. That's what it feels like for me. For everyone else, it's going to be, I think, possibly more precarious.
Well, we will have to wait and see. That's what I've said a lot on this podcast, but there's been a lot of games that I'm not ready to commit all in on.
So
And
do you think that will be a hit or a flop?
I think it will be a hit, but to the degree of where I would like it to be, maybe not so much. We'll have to wait and see. I mean, Final Fantasy 15 kept getting content for years, and if this is episodic, whether the second part will be better, and even the developers themselves have said, to be honest, we don't know how many chapters this is going to be, because this entire first game looks like it's just going to be in the city of Midgar.
Yeah.
That is like 5 hours of the first game.
So it sounds like they've added a lot of new stuff.
So there's a whole, you can explore the streets and interact with people and everything. That's all different. But, you know, the whole fun of Final Fantasy is getting out of Midgar into the whole world outside. You've got cities and mountaintops and things, so many places to explore. And you're taking away that by restricting it. So we'll have to wait and see if it's good enough to enjoy on its own merits, just that first section of the game.
Mm-hmm.
As an entire saga, it might be A++.
Mm-hmm.
But we'll have to wait and see. There's a lot to wait and see.
Yes.
They did have a lot of remasters announced during the Square conference as well. The Last Remnant, Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles, and of course, hashtag all for Squall. Since we're talking Final Fantasy.
Yes.
They finally found the source code. There was a rumor going around. The reason why Final Fantasy VIII was left out when 7, 9, 10 all moving to the Switch, what happened to 8? Supposedly, they lost the source code and would have had to have remade it from scratch. Thankfully, I think they found it in a dusty basement somewhere. Final Fantasy VIII remastered, nice, fresh coat of paint. It still looks polygonal, but it's a shinier polygonal. Polygonal. Polygonal just sounds weird.
Dragon Quest Builders, which looks a lot like Minecraft, I guess.
Yeah, the first Dragon Quest Builders does look very Minecrafty. This is the sequel coming out, and you have an amnesiac friend with an evil name.
Mm-hmm.
What could possibly go wrong there?
There's a demo coming out soon, so if you're itching to get your hands on that, you can do the trial demo on the 27th.
No, look, this is the Square conference. We're talking about Final Fantasy. Guess what? Final Fantasy soundtracks are available on streaming services like Spotify now. You can get your Final Fantasy fix. But there is more than just Final Fantasy. We do have like a Micro Machines looking game called Circuit Superstars, which, to be honest, doesn't look that good to me. But Final Fantasy is what you're here for. Final Fantasy 14 Stormbreaker expansion coming out very soon. I just wanted to make every second announcement about Final Fantasy because they were leaning on it quite heavily.
Well, that is their main, I guess, claim to fame as a studio. Romancing Saga 3 and Saga Scarlet Grace Ambitions are coming west soon.
Soon. And
I
with
love
a
that vague announcement.
PS Vita release as well. Good old Vita. We're
The
getting
Vita's
something for the Wii.
not completely ignored.
Something for the PS Vita. But Final Fantasy Brave Exvius is getting its new entry spin-off called War of the Visions. That's coming out soon. Sorry, I just got to get these Final Fantasy updates out there. You'd think a game that has 15 entries in it would have enough of its own, but we've got spin-offs and sequels and side stories and everything else.
Oninaki comes out August 22nd. It's going to be on PC, PlayStation 4, and Switch. Sorry, Xbox.
Yeah, another action role-playing game. There's plenty of those around, and the Switch is becoming quite a haven for it, like the PS Vita was as well.
Mm-hmm.
It's nice to see that our Japanese games transferring across to the Western audience in a wider variety of platforms now.
Absolutely.
Outriders, co-op shooter, sci-fi, didn't impress me too much, to be honest. But you know what did? Marvel Avengers. First impressions, looks okay.
Now,
Looks
which
pretty
one?
good.
There were two different ones that were actually announced over E3.
When was the other one? I can't remember. That was on the Nintendo one. That's in the future.
Okay.
Don't worry about that one.
Got to that one
First
yet.
impressions of the Avengers was on the Square conference. Now, I think it's heading to multiplayer. It looked like it was going to be a new narrative-based Avengers game. Give me like a Spider-Man or like a, any of these games that have come out recently that had the good single-player narratives.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that's where we're heading. But supposedly we're going online co-op Anthem with Avengers.
Oh, we all know how that went. Solid cast, though, for Marvel Avengers.
Solid. Incredible. All of our usual favourites on there.
The usual suspects are back. We've got Laura Bailey, who's like the queen of voiceover, unless, Jen Hale's around. Then Travis Willingham, her husband, going to be playing Thor. Troy Baker, interestingly, playing the Hulk.
Bruce Banner. Don't forget about Bruce. He was very
Yes,
adamant during this to not forget about Bruce. He was a very
Bruce.
interesting character.
Yes.
Everyone goes straight to Hulk, straight to the big green.
And Uncle Nolly as Tony Stark. I mean, who else? Really?
You want someone who can give wisecracks. Look no further than Nolan North, voice of Nathan Drake.
The king of wisecracks. And especially when he is teaming up with his, brother from another mother, Troy Baker. Those two can riff off each other without any help.
Mm-hmm.
So I imagine there could be some very interesting off-the-cuff kind of dialogue in this video game.
And Jeff Shine playing Captain America, who looks like he meets his demise in the trailer. So whether that's
very
just...
short role.
I'm playing Captain America. Yeah, he's got 3 lines for the whole game.
Hey, so long as you get paid.
Who's your go-to? Who do you intend on playing as the most?
I don't honestly know. I'm kind of sad that there aren't more options as far as party members. I know they're going for a different spin. They're using some of the most notable characters from the cinematic universe, but they're creating their own lore, so it's not going to be canon or borrowing from the comics or the movies and stuff from the past. So that's interesting. But I've always been a big Thor fangirl.
Of course you have.
I love the over-the-top kind of Shakespearean-esque antics.
And I liked how Thor became basically a comedy character in the Avengers movies.
Yes.
But this game will have free DLC, no loot boxes, no pay-to-win scenarios. Everything will be free and included as time goes on. So they will be adding. We did see Ant-Man revealed at the end of the trailer. They will be releasing new Avengers as time goes on. So you will have more party members to play as.
Yay!
But the fact that it looks like if it's exclusively online, I might not go anywhere near it. I'll have to wait and see how that goes.
Yeah. Another wait and see.
Curiously, I do a bit of
Doo-doo. Sorry.
Most of my video game website news, I like Destructoid.com. They have the same interests as me, and a lot of the reviewers I trust their rating scores more than most websites. And their E3 approval ratings from the fans, EA had their little press conference, which got 5% approval. Ubisoft got a 15.
Mm-hmm.
PC Gaming Show got 43. Bethesda got 44. Microsoft, 55%. This is people who either loved or enjoyed the press conference. And Square got 74%.
Wow.
By comparison.
Well, Final Fantasy VII will do that for you.
That's all you needed. That's all you needed.
They could have just started and ended with that. And
Thank
people would have been happy.
We'll see you next year.
Yep. We won. Done. Now, there are several games and announcements we're probably not going to delve much into because there wasn't really much point. They were just like, oh, yeah, we're still doing this. EA, oh my goodness, brought nothing to E3 this year, really.
Not at all. I don't know if they're planning the long game and they're going to have some big reveals.
They're just lucky that they could tack their name onto the new Star Wars Fallen Order game. Because otherwise they would have really had nothing. But my favorite conference of the year, purely because it's just so much fun as well, Nintendo.
Yeah, they have not done a traditional press conference in years.
And it's worked so well for them.
It has worked to their advantage. They can do pre-produced videos, so make sure there's no awkward flubs, no awkward, really loud yelling fans like in the Bethesda conference was.
Yeah! Shut up.
But it does mean you lose the spontaneity of "you're breathtaking."
Yeah, that's true. Organic memes being made like my body is ready. Oh, I missed Reggie this year. Did you miss Reggie?
I did miss Reggie, but I thought Doug Bowser did a good job.
Can tell he was a little nervous. There's the energy from the two new main head honchos of Nintendo. Haven't quite found their footing, I think, yet as presenters for these directs. But give them time and they'll warm up to it, I'm sure. I guess I just kind of miss the old faces, and that's part of life. Anyways, moving
people come,
on.
People go. We've got quite a few announcements coming to the Nintendo Switch and beyond. We have more Smash Brothers Ultimate characters. The Dragon Quest series has been going for years. They are celebrating the 11th entry, making it to the Switch in September this year. And you can play as many protagonists as different outfits for the same DLC character. Following Joker from Persona 5, we have the Dragon Quest heroes invading Smash Brothers coming soon.
And the guys from Duck Hunt. No, it's Banjo and Kazooie.
Yes! Oh my goodness, I'm so excited.
That way that we trolled everyone was so good.
The third character for the 5 DLC characters planned. It's Banjo-Kazooie in classic Banjo-Kazooie form. None of this blocky garbage redesign they did on the Xbox. This is it. This is classic Banjo-Kazooie. Microsoft allowed them. Apparently, it really wasn't that much of a negotiation required. Microsoft and Nintendo...
They're buddy-buddy right now.
People are going to start some rumours about them. I think they're getting a little cozy. I'm very excited for Banjo-Kazooie. The music's going to be fantastic. There was a original piece re-recorded for Spiral Mountain, which has little snippets of other level themes thrown in there as well, made by Grant Kirkhope, the original composer. Oh, I just love Banjo-Kazooie. One of my all-time favourite games. And I get to play as Banjo and Kazooie in Smash Brothers. What sort of game has Banjo-Kazooie, Sonic the Hedgehog, Solid Snake, Cloud Strife? What is this game?
It is the awesomeness that is Smash Bros.
How strange.
So I think if anyone got the season pass, this is one of the few games that, actually gives you worthwhile value for forking out early, I think. A lot to look forward to.
We've got The Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening, a game I played not too long ago, and of course they're remaking it.
Yes.
This happens to me quite frequently. It has a cool little art style, but the gameplay still looks very much intact.
A flashback to our childhood, the Dark Crystal. Do you remember that?
I've never seen it.
No?
But they're making
I think
a
I
new
watched
Netflix.
it once. It kind of creeped me out a bit. Jim Henson?
Yeah.
Very much similar kind of style to the Labyrinth and stuff. They have made a tactics game, which is going to be added to the Switch.
Doesn't look like it's going to interest me, to be honest.
But those who are big fans of the Dark Crystal, there's something to look forward to.
Luigi's Mansion 3 got quite a bit of time on this Nintendo Direct, and it looks fun.
And you can play as Gooigi. Where Luigi is goo as co-op mode, so that's maybe how I'll help you.
A bit of co-op for Luigi's Mansion.
I'll be a blob of goo walking
Ghost
around.
busting. Looks very much like more of the same, but with a series like that, I like Luigi's solo games. He's done quite well. If you're a fan of Secret of Mana, Mana,
yes,
we've got the Collection of Mana coming out, and
Heading to the
Trails of
Switch.
Mana is getting a remastered remake thing as well.
And also getting added to the Switch, The Witcher 3: The Wild Hunt is making the way to the Switch.
A very
Yeah,
graphically
2020.
demanding game.
Yes.
We'll have to see how well that runs.
I think it'll be alright. It's a few years old now.
So if you're late to the party, like myself, you could probably play it on the Switch for the first time. No More Heroes 3 is coming out. A lot of these were just pre-produced trailers, no actual gameplay included. But if you're a fan of Travis Touchdown, he's back. No More Heroes 3 next year. And speaking of Blast from the Past, a game that I had on many different consoles growing up, Panzer Dragoon is back on Nintendo Switch for a new entry or a remake. Not even sure. But If you like Lylat Wars or Star Fox style gameplay, well, it's the same sort of thing, but on the back of a dragon. So enjoy that.
I think a lot of the announcements have been games that have been ported are getting remastered and added to the Switch, much like Resident Evil 5 and 6.
Mm-hmm. Two of the least favoured Resident Evil games, but there's quite a few on the Switch now. You've got the remake, probably 0. You've got 4, 5, 6. Yeah, we're starting to stack them up. So if you wanted to play in a haunted house as well, which is what they did in the trailer.
Yeah, don't think that would be my cup of tea, but then I don't really play those games anyway. So it wouldn't matter the locale.
One of the exclusives for Switch coming out, Daemon X Machina. If you like Japanese mechs and fighting alien mechs and mechs, we got the game for you.
Oh, yeah.
That was revealed, I think, last year, and we're still not quite approaching launch just yet, but it's coming soon. And I'm sure there'll be a market for that in, say, Japan.
Oh, not there. They don't like mechs. What are you talking about?
We saw the giant mech in
The
Odaiba.
Gundam.
Very cool.
Contra Rogue Core is new and will launch in just a few months.
Contra, old style shooty, and they've made it newer.
Shooty. One of the biggest announcements that everyone had been waiting for, details about Pokemon Sword and Shield, proper solid games added to the entry. I think a few people had been disappointed with Eevee and Pikachu because they were kind of like Pokemon Light
A bit dumbed
diet
down.
games.
Yeah.
This time around, obviously all the old mechanics are back, but I'm glad to see that they've kept some of the stuff from Eevee and Pikachu editions where you can see the Pokemon in the wild. I think I'd mentioned it before on previous episodes that I loved how real that made the world feel, and I would be really kind of sad if they removed that.
Yeah.
So that looks like that stayed in.
One of my favourite things of those games, if I could have one aspect from Pokemon Let's Go Eevee and Pikachu, it would be Pokemon in the wild that you can see.
Yes.
So looking
You
forward
can
to it.
chase down the ones you want to catch instead of just constantly running into Zubats.
We had a nice little musical announcement of the Empire of Sin, which is a gangster game.
Mm-hmm.
Sort of like, it looks isometric viewpoints.
The old-timey, very much a dame walked into my office. She had lagged for days.
It looks like it's got a strategy element as well, as you're trying to take over a city with your criminal ways. That'll be coming out for the Switch as well. And speaking of Marvel, just a couple of games ago we were talking about the Avengers. And Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3, which was so strangely announced as an exclusive for the Switch. A series I've played in the past. It looks pretty much like a new entry in the series. If you have played it previously, you assemble your own team of 4 superheroes from a wide variety of X-Men characters, or Fantastic Four, or Guardians of the Galaxy, or whoever. You want Marvel characters more than the Avengers, you got them right here. It looks pretty much what you would expect. Yeah.
Moving on to something that we're genuinely excited about, or at least I am. A new Animal Crossing New Horizons coming out next year, March 2020.
A game that was delayed for the quality of life of its developers.
Yes. Kudos to Nintendo. That makes me happy to hear that they are caring about their devs and people that have been working so hard on this game to let them have a sanity break. I think that's important, and other companies should follow suit. Absolutely. But super, super pumped for a new Animal Crossing game. It looks like a lot of fun, but then they always are. So
You get to travel to a deserted island and build your own empire of sin on that island. What? I've mixed up my titles. Sorry.
Cadence of Hyrule is officially out, and it is doing well.
It has gotten very good reviews from the few I've seen already, and man, I had heard of Crypta the Necro Dancer before, but the gameplay I've seen of this Zelda one just makes me want to play it. And the biggest compliment that people have been giving this is that it looks like a Nintendo first-party game, even though an indie studio has worked on it.
Kudos.
Even though they have made it, it has that Nintendo charm. If you like Zelda, if you like rhythm games at all, you might find a nice combination right here.
It's
It looks
getting
and
rave
sounds
reviews.
incredible.
So definitely one to add to your list, I think, Brendo.
As if I don't have enough on it already.
The Spyro Reignited trilogy is coming to Nintendo Switch this September.
Oh, my mother would be so happy.
We need to get her a Switch then.
And we saw topless Dr. Eggman preparing for swimming action in the 2020 Olympics.
In Tokyo.
I don't think he would be very hydrodynamic with that large, bulbous, egg-shaped body of his.
We haven't seen a Nintendo Olympic game with like the Mario series for a while, so no surprise that with the Olympics being in Tokyo...
It's probably been about 4 years.
Has it actually been? I didn't think they did one last time.
Oh, they did London. When was that?
Was that 4 years? I thought it was further along.
Oh, I don't know. I don't pay attention to sport. They had also been doing the Winter Games every other 2 years as well.
Have they really?
I don't think they did the last Winter Games. So
I must not pay attention to those ones.
It's got Sonic the Hedgehog in it. That's why you should trust what I'm saying. The whole Sonic and Mario cast doing things like having judo bouts and skateboarding and rock climbing and all the other real important Olympic sports. What has happened to the Olympics? I'm so confused.
But hey, at least they can be some fun mini games. So if you're looking for a new party game with mini games, it's a bit different. Something that you can play with your kids that is kind of topical too with the Olympics along. I wonder if the Olympic mascots are making an appearance as well.
Oh.
I would be...
Unlockable characters, maybe?
Possibly. I wouldn't be surprised. You know, it's based in Japan this year, so it would make sense to have that kind of tied in somewhere, or a little hidden Easter egg.
Yep.
They have plushies of them everywhere.
Oh, how adorable. Speaking of adorable, if you're a fan of Alien, which turned 40 this year, if you can believe it.
Oh my goodness.
Alien Isolation, another port coming to the Switch.
You can play that one.
Okay, I will intend on playing it one day, and maybe I'll intend on playing it on Nintendo. Dauntless, another one that's heading to the Switch. That's like a Monster Hunter style game that has been gathering quite the momentum recently. And the big final reveal as they were about to close out the show. We just got one more little video for you to watch, guys. Don't worry about it.
Just a smidgen little, just a tiny little thing about The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild sequel, like a sequel, like a real sequel, because they don't do sequels.
No.
Not
The
proper
Legend of Zelda
ones.
game has many entries, but they very, very rarely have ones that directly follow another. Right here, we have a Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild sequel where, based off the way Zelda is dressed, and based off the way that some of the developers are being very coy in their interviews, I don't want to get hopes up, but maybe you can play as Zelda as well.
Ooh.
And I think if they can implement some sort of co-op element to this, where one person plays as Link, one person plays as Zelda. I've played through Breath of the Wild, and if I had the ability to play that cooperatively with you, I would jump at that in a heartbeat. That would be excellent. Maybe I'm just making this up and I'm ruining all of your expectations and you're going to hate the game when it launches. But it's looking good. Lots and lots of stuff for E3.
Just a bit.
Not only have you flown for 16 hours, then watched all these press conferences, then sat in this voice booth recording this podcast for hours.
And then editing, yay.
Is there any time for games this week? Because all these things coming out, but we've already got games to play.
I know, right?
We have gaming goals to talk about for this week.
Yes, so what are you going to play?
Red Dead Redemption.
Giddy up.
Probably Red Dead Redemption primarily.
Nice and
and
simple.
some more Chrono Trigger.
Going to play any Fallout 76?
I think our free trial ends quite soon, and I'm a busy boy the next 2 days. So probably not.
Well, I will do some more play and see how I go. That way, if we do end up playing it again when the additional content gets added, I can compare and see how that changes the game with the NPCs and such, and if that's a noticeable improvement or not. So long as the internet holds out and the servers stay online.
We hope.
Yeah. So that, along with some of those Vita games that I have brought back from the States, continuing on with Code Realize, I think those are going to be my main two. And who knows, maybe I'll be feeling a weird mood and start something completely out of left field and just shock you with it. We will see how
I'll
much
make sure Outlast
energy.
is installed on the PS4.
It won't be that.
Okay.
Thank you so much for joining us and for managing to get to the end of this episode. It was quite a beefy one. Lots of chunky meat pieces.
I didn't know where that was going.
What are those soup ads?
Chunky meat pieces.
So chunky you can carve it.
That was for dog food.
Was it? Oh.
Yes, that was for chum.
No.
Were you fed dog food as a child? Was that the soup that you were served?
Can't you eat canned dog food in Fallout?
Yes, you can.
There you go.
It's so chumpy you can carve it. Final word, your game of show, E3 2019. I couldn't remember what year we were in. I've said 2020 too often on this episode.
Probably Star Wars, the Jedi Fallen Order. That's the one I'm the most pumped for.
Excellent.
What about you?
Probably Final Fantasy VII Remake.
It's an easy one.
Well, it is easy, but there was quite a few things that I was thinking looked good. But I think that sneaks out just because of the level of expectation I had. It has surpassed that. The combat was one of my major fears. And seeing it in action at long last, 2 thumbs up for the combat style for me. The camera could probably use a bit of work, but it's better than I thought it would be. So that's all I ask, is for something to be better than I expect.
That's all I ask.
That's all I ask. Just be
just
better.
Just be better. Just exceed my expectations.
Probably that or Dying Light 2. But
yes.
as long as that's more of the same, I'm a happy boy.
Well, based off all the feedback that's coming out of E3 and the floor and the awards that it's been given already, I think you're pretty safe with that.
Sweet. Let's do it.
Until next time, guys, have a fantastic week. We'll catch you on the flip side. I've been Jem.
Welcome back, Jem.
Thank you.
I've been Brendo, and I'm now overloaded with games. Let's go play some.
Sounds like a good idea to me.
Chowski.
Bye, Anara.
Thanks for listening to the Gaming Lovers podcast. For more episodes or to watch some live stream gaming, visit thegaminglovers.com.